Hello, I'm Masaki Hara. This kind of person. And I'm waiting here at Wantedly booth. So let's get going. This talk's theme is simple. I made a little neat library. I will explain its feature and implementation. And alongside it, I will guide you to the depths of YAML. So what is Psych comments? Imagine you want this. You want to transform YAML, like adding a new element. And the input may contain comments. Simple solution would be to use YAML.load. It is also known as Psych. But the comments disappear. Instead, you can use Psych comments, my library. With Psych comments, comments are preserved. So this is a library for YAML comments. But do you know YAML? Yes, YAML is a fancy JSON. No. In fact, YAML was born independently to JSON. Did you know that? And notice that YAML is influenced by a Marshall library from Perl. This means YAML is as strong as Marshall, you know, in Ruby. Like custom objects, like regular expressions, and same object appearing twice. Probably you saw in the presentation in day one. Cycle, two data in one file. YAML supports all these. Quite complex. Here comes abstraction. YAML processing is split into 3 steps. This is how the specification is organized into. So it goes like this. Text on the right becomes a tree. Tree becomes a graph. Then graph becomes a Ruby object. Cycles are processed in the second step. Custom objects are processed in the third step from the right. In the low level, YAML has only 3 kinds, contrary to what you know. That is, sequences, mappings, and scalars. There are 2 or more syntaxes each, but they mean the same. And in the high level, tags determine their interpretation. Tags are indicated by the bang symbol, probably unfamiliar to most of you. Because if you omit tags, default rules are applied. They're determined based on their kinds, as I said earlier, as explained earlier. However, plain scalars are exception. Plain means no quotes or headers. in this case, in plain case, the contents determine the tag. This set of rows is called a schema. Applications may extend a schema. This is a Ruby example. This is one source of incompatibility. So I think you understand how complex it is. Here concludes YAML introduction. Many of you had new discoveries, I suppose. And as you probably understand YAML, let's go on to the implementation. As I said earlier, there are 3 steps in YAML processing. And the Psych library you usually use also has 3 levels: high level, mid level, and low level. My library works on the middle level. The familiar YAML.load is the high-level API. It is also called Psych.load. The mid-level API is called parse. It is more verbose, as you see in the source code. And my library has similar API. So this is what we want to achieve, but we want to extend the mid-level API. However, there's a problem. Psych is backed by a C library called LibYAML. C libraries cannot be monkey patched, just like in Ruby. For parsers, I solve it by reading YAML multiple times. The first pass simply uses the original parser. In the second pass, it scans the comments using the original algorithm. Here is an example. We have a cursor at the start. Advance the cursor to the next node. Find the hash marks. Attach them. Repeat until the end. Then the job done. Simple, but we have edge cases. First, extra hash marks. These are not comments, but they only appear in scholars. So we can just skip them. Second, comments before delimiters. They're special trailing comments, unlike most other comments. Third, a key value pair. In Psych, there is no node for pairs because they're represented as a flat array. So instead, in my library, the key node represents the pair instead. Lastly, bullets. In other words, array item indicated by hyphen or minus. They always attach to the whole element. And putting these edge cases and algorithm together, parser took only 100 lines. Short, isn't it? And we need opposite direction as well, generator. Remember that. We cannot extend the algorithm itself because of the C library. And generators cannot be done like parsing. We can only reuse the Scala part. So for the other parts, let's simply re-implement it. Here, the abstraction is important too. For formatting functions, print, space, new line, and indented plays the key role here. The space method prints a space, but not immediately, because spacing can be canceled. It depends on what follows next. Similarly, new line prints an indentation, but again, not immediately, because the indentation varies depending on the next content. Other thing like special case for sequence in mapping. Can you see? Only one nesting pattern allows omitting indentation. Also, we move comments above bullets. Look ahead is used to implement it. Putting those together, still only 300 lines. So compact despite all the re-implementation effort, isn't it? So this is my implementation. Let me mention our use case next. This line is familiar in Ray's folks. It looks for YAML files like these. But sometimes there is a mistake like this. We, in the past, made a tool to check their consistency and copy the data if necessary. However, we sometimes need exceptions. Annotations are needed for them. Unfortunately, we abused the tags for this purpose then. But sometime later, it suddenly broke. What LibYAML generates cannot be parsed. In fact, according to the latest spec, it is correct to reject commas in this form. But unfortunately, it still generates the wrong one. This is, of course, LibYAML's problem. But at the same time, this is our fault. Tags are not meant for annotations. Of course, comments are best for this purpose. Here. But the last problem, there was no comment support. And as you know, I implemented myself. Let me add the last story. It's about the library's scope. There were two kinds of comments, leading comments and trailing comments in this library. But probably you want line end comments too. Thankfully, someone submitted a PR. But we needed something to discuss. How many spaces to put there? there are two choices at least. The author wanted to preserve spaces. So if the original code YAML was above, the output should be above. But there are many other spacing details out there, like how to indent structures, or how to indent comments before bullets, or something. I need to stop it somewhere. And the famous previous format says a similar thing. There's some point to stop. And remember the 3 levels of abstraction. In each step, in parsing, details are removed bit by bit, like this. And Psych retains a bit more detail than the specified serialization. And my library, Psych comments, extends it a bit, only in a bit, but still throwing away the other details, remaining parts, spacing and escapes. This finally clarified the library scope. It only adds comments and nothing more. That was my decision. Decision is done. Then I needed communication next. At last, as a result of my communication, unfortunately, the PR was withdrawn. But at the same time, fortunately, some other person is trying it again. It's a bit early, but let's wrap it up. So, well, I made Psych comments gem. And this is small, yet useful library. I suppose some of you need to use it immediately or soon. But at the same time, it cannot be expanded indefinitely. So I need to put a stop to feature and reject some of the contributions. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. 質問があればこのまで答えようと思うので少し続きはやります。日本語でも英語でも。
ストアーズの遠藤と申します。面白い発表ありがとうございました。学会っぽい。理解できているかちょっと自信ないんですけど、基本的にコメントが、その後にあるノードにくっつけるっていう感じのアプローチでコメントを保持するで合ってますか？
そうです。Yes. In the basic rule of thumb, the comments is in principle attached to the next node, following node.
最後の方に例であったんですけど、行末についてる場合とか、あとドキュメントに一番最後についてる場合はじゃあどこにくっつくんでしょう？
そうですね。その場合が例外処理ということになります。So, in some cases there are exceptions. Other than the example I mentioned in the presentation regarding the ending of the delimiter, the end of the documentation is also an exception. これが、例外的な例の一つで、in this case, it is also treated as a trailing comment ということになります。で、でなんで、あと、LINE エンドコメントに関しては、まだ使用はないというか、まだ実装が入ってないので、今後確定される。For LINE エンド comments, there is not yet a complete implementation. So the spec is going to be defined there.
ありがとうございます。堅くなに日本語で質問するんですけど、
はい、
なんだろう、いろんなところにコメントを書くのをヒューリスティックにどこにくっつけるかっていうの結構調整されているように見えたんですけれども、
はい、
想定漏れとかはないんでしょうか。どこにどういうインデントでどういうふうにコメントが入ったら、なんか想定外のところにアトリビュートしちゃうみたいなことが起きないかって、どうやって考慮漏れがないことを確かめたのかなというのが気になります。
はい、考慮漏れというそうですね、どう言えばいいかな。考慮漏れよりも判別できないケースが基本的に多いと思ってます。なので、基本的にはそんなに厳密に考えてはいないというのが実態です。
一番最悪なのは何だろう、どこにもちゃんとくっつかなかった場合っていうのがあったらまずいなと思っていて、そういうのを網羅的に、テストするとかってされたのかなっていう。
そういうのをやったわけではないですね。ただアルゴリズムの構造上、どこかにがアタッチされるっていうのは、ほぼ確実かなと思います。そのパーサーとの連携部分がちょっと、若干怪しいとは思ってますけども、基本的には。The heuristics is merely heuristic, but there is inherent limit because there is not enough expressivity in the YAML comments in regard to what node it attaches to, inherent restriction. So in the first place, I decided not to stick on the strict preciseness. But at the same time, because of the algorithm simply moving the cursor, it is basically guaranteed that any comment attaches to only exactly one node.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。
英語で話せる自信がない。
いや、大丈夫です。
多くの言語における YAML のライブラリってリブ YAML に依存してるんじゃないかと僕は思ってるんですよ。でそうなった時にリブ YAML がコメントを扱えないっていうことは Ruby っていう面を抜きにしても YAML についているコメントまで扱えるのはもしかして Psych コメントだけになるってことですか？
そうですね。あんまり聞いたことはないっていう意味では可能性はあります。As many bindings depend on libyaml, it is expected that most of the YAML library around there doesn't support comments. At least as far as I know, there wasn't.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
あまりそこに世の中にユースケースがないのかなっていうの印象はあったんですよ。でやられたことはすごいと思うんですけど、なんて言うんだろう、もっとみんなYAMLにコメントを書かないのかなって話なんですよね、多分。
My guess is that probably there is certainly use case because I witnessed one in Travis CI CLI. It modifies YAML and once it throws away comments. So my guess is that it is in some sense hard to implement it. In fact, it's kind of simple, but what causes? Probably this is a matter of なんだこうやることがmatter of just doing なんじゃないかなと思います。
ありがとうございます。
こんなもんですかね。これって。お。質問というか。
plan to merge your 300 location to the original Psych team?
Probably. My idea is that Psych is basically meant to be a binding of libyaml. So probably this is beyond its scope. In this case, I'm willing to maintain it for some foreseeable time. But if Psych is ready to accept its extensions, then I'm willing to contribute it to Psych. お願いします。確かに、
発表ありがとうございました。私自身以前コメントをつけたいなっていう時があったんで、すごくあったら嬉しいなっていう機能ではあるんですけれども、聞いててちょっとお伺いしたいなと思ったのが、ノードに紐付けるYAMLにコメントはつけたいけれども、プログラムでそのコメントを読み込むってことは想定してなかったんですね。なのでそういった機能をつける、紐付けるっていう機能をつけようと思った理由というか経緯とかもしあればお伺いしたいんです。
それはちょうど、発表中でもあったように元のアイデアがあったんですよね。It was based on the original idea on annotating the nodes using by abusing tags。タグを使ってアノテーションをつけるっていうことがまずベースにあって、でそれをコメントで真似したらどうなるのかっていうのが発想としてあったので、こういった形になったっていうのが経緯かなと思います。
アノテーション
ですね。つまり、元のデータ、これはRailsのデータがもうフォーマットが決まっちゃってるんですよね。だからこれを変えられないっていうところがスタート地点で、だからメタデータが何かつけられなきゃいけない。そこで、僕の専任者がタグを使おうって思いついたんですけど、じゃあその代わりになる方法は何だろうっていうふうに考えた時にコメントだったから、同じようにやっぱりノードの属性としてコメントを表せたらいいなということで、こういう発想になりました。
ありがとうございます。
じゃあ以上ですかね。ありがとうございました。